Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today we are going to be doing something a little different. This was a suggestion in my YouTube comments that I really liked. I just kind of wanted to wait a little bit of time to do it, but we are going to be doing a Pug tank tier list. How good are each tanks in pure Pug scenarios? What they can bring, utility, and all that fun stuff. This is not going to be based on power level of the tank itself. More, how good is this tank in Pug scenarios? I'm pretty sure how you guys can guess which one's going to be at the top of the list, but we'll go through them one by one and talk about tank utility in Pugs. This is going to be for the 15 to 20 range, so obvious disclaimer. All tanks are perfectly capable, are really good in all scenarios, are really good for pugging. We're going to have to just criticize utility a little bit more on this one. Before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe. I cannot believe how quickly those sub numbers have been going. Thank you so much, everybody. I can't wait to hit 4K and then 5K. I'm probably going to do some sort of celebration stream for 5K or something. I'm thinking maybe like I have a Charmander onesie. I haven't worn it in a couple of years. It's really big, still fits. But if you guys want to see me do a bunch of keys in a Charmander onesie, might do that with some other celebrations and some giveaways and stuff like that. We'll see what happens. As well, there's a Twitch link down below if you want to watch me stream, a Discord link down below if you want to talk about any of the tanks or any of that fun stuff. There's just an amazing group of people in there that are absolutely wonderful and some of the nicest people I've ever met in World of Warcraft. And there's a Patreon link if you wish to support me directly. So let's get into it. First tank, we're just going to go in order here. You can't see it because it's blocking my camera. So to start this off, just so you can see everything, I'm just going to throw everything up in... you know what? We're going to do everything in F tier because fuck it. Everything in F tier. I didn't put them in any single order. We're just going to do it. So Blood Death Knight. Blood Death Knight is obviously one of the strongest tanks in the game right now. Their DPS is absolutely just stellar. But what do they bring to a Pug environment, right? If you're purely pugging, what good stuff does this bring? Gorfine's Grasp is highly underrated for keeping things off of your DPS and certain things like that, especially in like Junkyard, where you can't get threat on certain mobs. You can still just yoink them all into place with Grip of the Dead, which is a 90% slow, keeping them in place very strong. They obviously have a Brez. Warlocks are still in the meta right now, but I have noticed in the Pug environment, they're either really good or really bad, and there's no in between. Just kind of how it's working, and unfortunately, boomies haven't really been in the meta for a while. I have noticed a couple of insanely good feral druids kind of pop into some of my Pug runs, which I'm very happy to see feral at the top of the meters when they are, and just being present, really. I'm really happy for that. So Brezes aren't super common, and one of the other things that Blood DK does, which synergizes very nicely with this Brez, is the amount of self-sustain. You're not reliant on a healer to keep yourself up and going, and you can often solo down bosses, which may destroy Pugs. You know, if you get a certain boss down to 10-15%, you can, instead of wiping, you can pretty much just solo it. It might take a little bit of time, but it's going to save you the time from the wipe, run back, and then go over again, especially if you've already committed like a lust or something. I am going to be putting Blood DK. Oh, so I have a different tier list this time where I have S, A+, A, B+, and all the pluses here. So we are going to go A+. It doesn't bring a stupid amount of utility, but the utility that it brings is very strong and always has been. The instant Brez that all it costs is runic power, especially in today's meta where you're not reliant on that runic power as much for death strikes because you get so much of it with the tier set and the two extra runic power, the 2 dancing rune weapon bonuses. You do have a lot, so you can save a lot of runs when you hear when you see the healer says, "Oh shit," or whatever, they drop down to 20% and then die, or a DPS. That you see them standing in something bad. You can just instantly pool the Brez runic power that you need. You see them drop and instantly hit it with a quick click cast or whatever whatever bind you have. Very strong type of Brez with no cast time and immediately get things up and rolling again. The grips, always fantastic, and a very good control tank. And in Pugs, this is very good. Control over your over the pull and over what's going on is incredibly good. Add the self-sustain to that and the actual DPS. Definite A plus for DK tanks, because you have the grip taunts as well, grip kicks, grip stuns, well, disrupts, not stuns, but disrupts, right? If someone's casting something that, you don't want to go off, but your asphyxiate isn't available, you can grip it in, it stops, it at least slows it down. It doesn't always stop the cast, depending on what the cast is, but incredibly strong. Up next is Bear. Bear brings, I just threw that up there, that's not exactly where I'm going to go. Bear brings battle res, self-healing, self-sustainability, a 30-second basically immune to everything with Ursoc's Fury. It does bring off healing as well. One of the things that I like to do, especially in scenarios where the healer's having a little bit of trouble keeping up with Grievous or whatever have you not, on necrotic weeks, what I'll do is I'll drop Ursoc's Fury, dash away, like you can stampede or roar away, whatever, get away, and then I tend to run the healing affinity, the resto affinity, for Ursol's Vortex, obviously, especially with how good that is in necrotic weeks, but then I'll throw some rejuves out, or, help out the healer, just put some extra stuff out, get some Grievous stacks off with a regrowth or whatever have you not, and then immediately shift back into bear form when I see things coming at me, and that way you can really help out with a lot of nice group utility that way, as well as gain access to Typhoon, Mass Entangle. You have so many great, and Soothe, not to mention Soothe, because right now Hunters, yes, they're in the meta, but not everybody knows when to soothe things or things like that, but having that extra Soothe just on your tank is very, very strong, and it's a very easy tank to play, right? I mean, there's kind of the joke of hit Thrash and just keep hitting Thrash, and that's how you play Bear, but you do have a lot of nice options. And one thing that's really, really nice with Bear is Moonfire is 40 yards, allowing you to pull at a distance to bring in extra mobs, and without really having to displace yourself as much. So you can pull, you can do multi-pulls very easy with Moonfire, bringing things in at a very far distance, which is very, very good itself. And then, of course, like I said, you have the battle res, you have the healing, you have self-sustainability with the absorb, because self-sustainability is very, very important in pugs. Very important. The less that your healer has to heal you, the better things are going to go, right? That's kind of the basics of how, pugging works. The less work they have to do, the better. If they're having to spam heal you the whole time, you're probably not having a great run. I would put Bear in A tier for pugging. Very, very good. You also have the Dispel, which is not as important in Season 4. In Shadowlands, that Dispel is huge with the decurse and things like that. I think it's what, curses and poisons, if I'm not mistaken, which was absolutely huge in Shadowlands with those 8 dungeons, because there was something in everything. I apologize for my cat. She's pregnant and she is very vocal. You're going to hear her in the background. I'll post pictures of the kitties when they're born. We're thinking it's about less than 2 weeks away, but she has become more and more vocal. I promise you, she has food. She's well fed. But in some of my videos, you're going to start hearing her more and more. I can't stop it. Just is what it is. But Bear, I would rate in a very high A tier for pugging scenarios. Very, very strong. Next is Brewmaster. Brewmaster does bring a lot of fun utility and a lot of stops. You can paralyze kick, paralyze stun, Ring of Peace to keep things away from from your mob, like anything like that doesn't want to move. You can just keep them away from your DPS, move them into place. It has so many great utilities, and the Ring of Peace is true for Mistweavers and Windwalkers as well. And I hate to see Windwalkers that never use Ring of Peace, because you're like, dude, like you could help me out here big time. But being able to have control over the battlefield, like we talked about Blood Death Knight, is very, very strong, and it's a very good necrotic reset, which you're helping your healer. They're very self-sustainable with the Keg Smash 4-piece. The healing from Expel Harm, the being able to spin Crane Kick all of your healing orbs in. The amount of self-sustainability that you do get from Brewmaster is absolutely fantastic. And all of the stops, like I said, Ring of Peace can be used as a control, can be used as a kick, can be used as a CC. In Spires of Ascension, for example, when you did the pull after the first boss and you brought everything into the corner, I would put my Ring of Peace down to kind of block in the corner, and everything would bounce around because they're kind of going into the wall and they can't cast because they're doing things like that. Now, obviously, we don't have Spires of Ascension anymore, but there's a lot of great the ROP, Ring of Peace utility that you can use. Not to mention you have a 1 minute AoE like full stun. Very, very good. Paralyze kick, Paralyze Ring of Peace is very, very good for skips, and you do have Vivify. Now, Vivify, I find, is a little bit better to upkeep some off-healing at the end of pulls, especially on Grievous weeks, but I'm going to be putting Brewmaster, they're pretty much tied. I'd say a good A tier for utility and all of that fun stuff for what Brewmaster brings, and they're very self-sustainable, they're very difficult to kill, and just all around super, super good. Vengeance Demon Hunter. Vengeance Demon Hunter suffers from one major problem. They don't have many buttons, and this has been a very big focus of Dragonflight Vengeance Demon Hunters, because everybody's like, what's the tree gonna look like? They have no buttons. And this is like, if you ever see me play Vengeance Demon Hunter, you can see how many keybind slots I have with nothing there. Now, what they do have is incredibly good, though. They have a group silence every 45 seconds with Quicken Sigils, or 48 seconds, or whatever have you not. That is a full AoE silence. Fantastic option to have. Sigil of Quicken Misery? No, Sigil of Misery is another minute-and-a-half AoE stop that fears things in place, which is really, really good for things like Murlocs and things like that. Now, yes, that is broken when they take damage, but it is a fantastic AoE stop, and you can single-handedly stop multiple scale binders at the same time with proper planning and great use of this utility. You obviously have, every tank has an interrupt, but you can also imprison kick, imprison skip if you do need to use that, and imprison is great utility for a lot of things and a lot more useful than what you may think, and they are incredibly self-sustainable. But the problem is that kind of is where it ends. I'm kind of struggling with B+ to B tier for Vengeance, because the utility that they have is really, really good. It's just very limited, so I think I'm going to put them in B tier. But they are very self-sustained, but they just don't have as many things, right? And the things that they have, aren't very good for multiple uses, because it kind of is what it is. Like, if you take Ring of Peace, or Vortex, or Typhoon for Bear, you can find many different ways to utilize that one spell where, Sigil of Silence is very, very solid, but you need casters. You need casters in your pack to be able to use it. When it is usable, it is insanely solid. But you need to have that kind of context to trigger, right? You need to have what it's really good at being available for you. So for Pug tanks, I've noticed with Vengeance, I always wish I had more buttons. I wish I had, Chaos Nova that Havoc has, where you can just group stun everything. I always wished for something more, and in Pug environments, you need something more, because as a tank in pure Pugs, you're being relied on to do a whole lot more things, which is kind of why I like running with full groups sometimes, especially in higher keys, because I'm not relied on anywhere near as much as a tank to do anywhere near as much. When I'm in a full Pug group, I have to do so many things, it's absolutely crazy, where I only need to do about 60% of those things, because people are rotating kicks, rotating stuns, using their CC, helping kite, and all of these crazy things where, as a bear tank, for example, I'm reliant on kiting by myself, which is why I take Ursol's Vortex. Nobody's going to just, not nobody, very few. I don't want to say nobody, because that's very wrong. I have absolutely done Pug runs where people have used their utility to help out the tanks, but it's not super common, right? Tanks are reliant to get things done on their own and do everything on their own, and with Vengeance, I always wished I had more buttons. Prop Pally. This was a very obvious S tier. The amount of utility that they bring, especially in Season 4, is absolutely crazy. You have 2 reliable kicks with Avenger Shield and Rebuke, Divine Toll is a massive 40-second group-wide kick on basically everything. You can spec into Divine Bedazzle, which is what we call Blinding Light on my stream, which is another AoE group kick. Hammer of Justice, what, 5-6 second stun or whatever it is? I know it's at least 5. Single target stun, huge. Bubble, Bop, Blessing of Sacrifice to help out your healers. Lay on Hands. Like, if you see your healer just accidentally stand in something in a pug run, which can be fairly frequent, or even a DPS, that go from 100 to 10 instantaneously, you can just hit them with quick Lay on Hands. They're back up to full. Absolutely crazy off healing that you can do. Hand of the Protector is basically another Lay on Hands if it crits, right? Because if someone is like at 20% health and you hit them with a Word of Glory and that crits, they're basically at full health. Like, that's basically another Lay on Hands. And I have saved multiple runs and multiple wipes from occurring just by using Hand of the Protector. The healer died from some sort of mechanic in a pug run. This has happened this season multiple times, where I am literally just kiting around, kicking things, using Divine Toll to kick things, using Avenger's Shield, swapping things around, and just Hand of the Protectoring, healing the entire group, keeping it alive. And then you obviously have Res. Freedom is very underrated for Paladin, being able to freedom the chains in the Grand Menagerie boss, and also quite a few other things that you can freedom within Season 4. There's a lot of great utility that you can work around with there. There's just so many things that Protection Paladin can do, and on top of that, they bring very, very good damage, and they bring like all of the kicks. They bring a ton of stuns, bring a full immunity with Bubble, a party, like you can give a Bop, like on the third boss of Iron Docks, you can Blessing of Protection. The first Oshir, when you grab someone and just starts hitting them, you can just bop it and it's irrelevant. The second one, you can Blessing of Sacrifice it. Blessing of Sacrifice is also incredibly strong on healers or DPS that like to stand in things, which in pug environments happens all the time. Honestly, I have had more successful Protection Paladin pug runs than any other tank. And that is because you just have so many things that you can do to the party, for the party, and help out with healing, immunes, and all of this crazy stuff that you can do with Prot Pally. It is an S-tier pug tank. And if you are just strictly looking at pugging all of your runs, Prot Pally is a fantastic option to take. And lastly, let's talk about my one true love in all of World of Warcraft, Protection Warrior. S tier. No. Protection Warrior is very, very strong right now in Season 4. Spell Reflect is absolutely incredible. There's a lot more physical damage intake, which is really, really good for shield block, aiding in their self-sustainability. Banner now being able to really last a full 2 minutes with no problem at all, so you're not reliant on to be able to get Banner back down to a time frame where you needed it because you just didn't have the haste breakpoints to be able to get there. Unfortunately, Prot Warrior just doesn't bring enough utility for pug groups, and this is me being very, very critical, right? Like I said, all tanks are in A+ tier just for getting 15 to 20s done. Every single one. But if we're strictly being very critical on pug tanking, Protection Warriors bring Rally, which is very strong. It does help save a lot of pulls and group-wide damages, which is occurring in Season 4, which is very, very nice. Especially like the first few pulls of Iron Docks, where like the Incinerators and the Deadeyes don't target tanks that often, and they tend to target other things. And Intervene has seen a lot more uptick in value. Intervening DPS on the third boss of Iron Docks, for example, you can help mitigate a lot of that incoming damage, and you'll have it up for both. Plain and simple. There you have a couple of group stops in smaller pulls with Intimidating Shout. You do have a group-wide taunt, which is actually going down to 2 minutes in Dragonflight, which is so good, because 4 minutes is too long of a cooldown on that. And the self-sustainability of Prot Warrior is a little tough right now. If you're screwing up your rotation, you're not making Banner last the full 2 minutes, it is very difficult to get the rage to self-sustain, because the combination of rage generation during banner, ignore pain, and the rage burn that you're doing while you're using ignore pain, revenge, and shield blocks, allowing Indomitable to heal you up, is actually very strong. And as long as you're upkeeping all of that, you do not have a problem. But the moment you drop banner, your rage generation suffers greatly, meaning your self-sustainability suffers greatly as well. I have noticed in pug runs, when I have accidentally let banner drop because I'm talking to the stream or whatever have you not, or it's just a little bit too long between pulls because I didn't pull the other pack closer to my second pack where I could just heroic leap charge in and be fine. And I kind of, you know, we're human. We screw it up sometimes. It happens. But the more haste you have, the easier it is to upkeep banner. So this is kind of more of a start of the dungeon problem than an end of the dungeon problem. Unfortunately, it's not quite enough. And I have noticed I have wiped more often trying to deal with the last bit of packs as Prot Warrior, causing a full group wipe, versus if I was on Prot or Blood or even Brew or Bear, I would have been able to finish off those pulls just by playing a little bit more defensively and healing myself. Because once you run out of defensive options, like if you don't have anyone to intervene for shield block, if you don't have heroic leap to charge weave, and you're just running out of rage because you don't have banner, you start being very, very squishy if you don't have shield wall or demo shout up. Now, is this indicative of the overall strength of Prot Warrior this season? Absolutely not. I think Prot Warrior is an insanely strong tank this season, and we've talked about that in the past, but that's different. You need, in a group-wide scenario where everyone's doing their job and everything's going good, Prot Warrior is incredibly powerful with Spell Reflect and just tons of stuff that it can do to the party. But the problem is it doesn't help if there's no synergies within the party helping, and just like if you have to do everything, it can be very, very difficult. You're reliant on your one kick, because aside from Intim Shout, you don't have a whole lot outside of Shockwave, because you want your second charge, opting out of Stormbolt. These are a lot of problems that are going to be fixed in Dragonflight, by the way, which I'm very, very excited for, but that's not the purpose of this conversation. But yeah, so I'm going to have to rate... I'm going to go B tier. And you know what? Actually, I can't put Vengeance and Prot in the same one. So we're going to put Vengeance in B+ and Prot Warrior in B. That seems a little bit more fair to me. There are some stuff that I missed as well, as you guys are talking. Oh, you didn't talk about this as well. Yeah, I know. I can't go through every utility ability that there is in the game for each and every single tank. We'd be here for like 3 hours talking about every single possible scenario. I get it. This is a general guideline for pug groups. This is meant to be fun, and this is by no means the be-all, end-all tier list for pugs and things like that. You guys can have your opinions, and absolutely, like, you know, you guys could rate Vengeance a little higher, Blood a little bit less, Prot, Pally, and F. I don't care. It's your tier list. Have fun with it. This is where I think they are, and it's just meant to be a fun little guideline. So, with that, I want to thank you guys very much for your time. You guys have yourselves a very good day, and happy tanking.